Chi-Yuan's release reminded me of something I didn't realize I had been slowly appreciating. His combat, his expressions, the way his personality shows through gameplay. It made me stop and look at the rest of the cast. I found myself going back through all the characters in Wuthering Waves, not to test their strength or numbers, but to really look at them, their animations, their beauty, their complexity. And while doing that, I came to a realization, especially during the Renesita arc, every single character, from 2.0 all the way to 2.7, has just gotten significantly better than the previous character. There is this unique feel that every new character gives off, a kind of excitement you rarely see in other gacha games, and honestly, even in most video games. You can feel it in the way they move, the way they attack, the way their abilities flow together. And that got me thinking, how exactly are the characters in this game so unique, so interesting, especially when compared to other gacha games? How does Wuthering Waves give us a character like Cardothea, whose design and animation completely blew the community away, making us believe nothing could possibly top her, and then somehow giving us Augusta, a character that actually does? And well, I believe the answer lies in two simple words: unnecessary additions. It's an idea we've spoken about briefly before, especially in relation to Wuthering Waves' NPCs. But in this video, I want to go deeper, because I believe this concept might just be the single most important element behind what makes a character truly interesting and memorable. So if you're into this kind of content, make sure to like the video and let me know if you've noticed what I'm talking about with the characters in Wuthering Waves. How do you feel about them? Are you like me, of the opinion that these characters have only gotten significantly better, more enjoyable, more refined, more alive with every update? Or do you not really feel the same sense of growth and excitement from them? Tell me that more in the comments below, and of course if you subscribe to the channel on any of my future videos. Before we get into it, this video is sponsored by U7Buy. When you're looking for a cheap, safe, and trusted digital marketplace for all things gacha, U7Buy is the best choice. U7Buy offers unbeatable prices for top-ups in your favorite gacha, up to 25% off, and still 10 to 15% cheaper than official platforms. And here's how easy it is to top up. Simply enter your account's UID and server, and your top-up will be processed instantly. Join over 100 million satisfied customers worldwide and check out the 30,000 plus positive reviews on Testpilot. So the question is, do you want the best deals for your in-game top-ups? Then simply click the links in the description or pinned comments below to save even more. And here is where you can save extra. When you're checking out, simply enter my code TNP to save an extra 5% on already low prices. U7Buy, your gateway to the best gaming top-up deals, fast delivery, and unbeatable prices. So thank you U7Buy for sponsoring this video, and now let's get into it. So what even are unnecessary additions? Well, it is a simple answer to the question, how do you make your game a bit more interesting? Like the name implies, unnecessary additions are things added to your game, whether it's in the environments, the characters, the NPCs, or any other aspect of the world. These are little details that, at first glance, seem completely unnecessary. Things that most people might not have asked for, but end up appreciating deeply once they notice them, and that is the beauty of unnecessary additions in video games. Even though nobody explicitly demands them, everyone ends up loving them. They become the small touches that define a world, the hidden gems that stand out as highlights of a setting or a character. And in Wuthering Waves especially, every aspect of this game is filled with unnecessary additions. These little things we never asked for, yet somehow they end up defining the entire world. They shape up the environment, the atmosphere, and ultimately our experience within it. Think about it. The soldiers saluting you at the gates of Jingzhou, the echoes in Renesita that knew before you, or even the daily lives of the NPCs scattered across Septimont. None of these details were ever requested or expected, but they're there, quietly breathing life into the game. And it's these small unnecessary touches that make Wuthering Waves feel so alive. They make its world more believable, more interesting, and far more memorable. But more than any other aspect of the game, Wuthering Waves does a phenomenal job of adding these unnecessary details to its characters, and more importantly, making these additions fit the idea behind each character. They don't just throw in extra flair for the sake of style. These details make sense. They elevate what we already know about the characters, and in doing so, they elevate our interest in them. Take Zani for instance. The fact that she rests on a chair as part of her combos, this is a completely unnecessary addition. It is placed right in the middle of a high-risk moment, where combos usually need to be fast and fluid, with little to no interruption. But as unnecessary as this detail may seem, it's not only hella cool, it's brilliant in terms of character building, because it shows us that even in the way she fights, Zani carries that same exhaustion and stress that's written all over her appearance, the same way that is deeply woven into her story. Or take the fact that the game allows Cardothea to walk on air, which again is absolutely unnecessary. In fact, it's even a little stressful sometimes, especially if you're using a controller and can't easily switch to walk mode. But as unnecessary as this is, it makes perfect sense once you think about it. This small subtle detail does a phenomenal job of showing us the kind of realm, the kind of existence someone like Cardathea operates in compared to everyone else. Because when you look at it, Cardathea really is the closest thing to a god that we have as a playable character in Wuthering Waves. She's the resonator of an actual deity. So giving her the ability to literally walk on air isn't just style, it is symbolism. It reflects her godhood. It's an elegant, quiet way of saying she is above the rest. And once again, it is just really, really cool. And really, these kinds of details can be found in every single character in Wuthering Waves. There are things that, in the grand scheme of things, don't increase your damage numbers or shorten your run times. The very things that gacha players usually care about most, these additions don't do any of that. But even so, there's an appreciation to be had for them, for these subtleties that in their own way elevate our interest in a character. They don't make gameplay more efficient, but they make the experience more meaningful. So the big question now is, how important are these additions really? I mean, we've already seen their impacts when talking about the characters themselves, but beyond that, in what other ways do these seemingly small details truly elevate the character? And really, there are many aspects of the game that benefit from these additions: the combat, the exploration, the simple visuals. But in no other aspect is there more benefits than there is in the anticipation for new characters. An anticipation that only grows stronger depending on how important those characters are within the story. And this is extremely important because one thing I've noticed, especially since I started playing Wuthering Waves, a game absolutely filled with this kind of additions, is that games without them can feel surprisingly empty. They can be mechanically solid, visually polished, and still end up being an uninteresting experience. And a prime example of this is Genshin Impact. See, I spoke about Cardathea earlier, and how our necessary additions made an already extremely interesting character, both story-wise and lore-wise, even more compelling and memorable. And this isn't something unique to Cardathea alone. A lot of other characters, Augusta, Yuno, Chiyuan, all incredibly important and fascinating in their own rights, also have these small, unnecessary details that amplify their charm. They're already great characters on their own, but these subtle touches make them shine even brighter, increasing both their memorability and their emotional impact. But here's the thing, Genshin Impact also has incredibly interesting characters. In fact, many of Genshin's characters are every bit as intriguing, some even more so than those in Wuthering Waves. The Archons, the Shades, these are characters defined by their lore, their mysteries, their role in the world. They carry the same weight of importance and fascination. But when it comes to their gameplay, it's an entirely different story. Because one issue a lot of players have noticed with Genshin Impact's characters, especially the important ones, is how they interact with the environment, or rather, how unmeaningful that interaction actually is. Put simply, the experience you get using Bennett or Barbara to traverse the world is almost identical to what you get using the Raiden Shogun or Zhongli. Aside from the look of their skills and their ultimates, which to be frank, are unique across every other 5-star, there is nothing else that sets them apart in how they feel to play. There's nothing that gives you the sense, mechanically or visually, that these characters are as powerful or as different as their lore suggests. There are no unnecessary additions attached to them, nothing that quietly reinforces their identity the way Wuthering Waves does with its characters. And even the exceptions to this rule, the few Genshin characters that do have these kinds of additions, don't have them to reinforce anything the story has told us about them, which, if you remember, is one of the core reasons why these unnecessary additions even exist in the first place. Instead, for these characters, the additions exist as a manifestation of Hoyo versus greed, woven directly into the very stories they created. They are not artistic choices, they are marketing tools, a way to get people to spend more money on the next shiny new character. And nowhere is this more evident than in Maruika's design. Here is a leader of a nation of villages, a leader of a land built on tradition and culture, who rides a motorbike. A motorbike that has nothing to do with her environment, a motorbike that sticks out like a sore thumb in the setting of Natlan. It doesn't represent her people, her land, or lore. It represents something else entirely, a marketing choice disguised as a design one. And I bring attention to this because when it comes to how much we should anticipate new characters, the only real way to understand that is by looking at the characters we already have. And in the case of Wuthering Waves, they've done a fantastic job at building that hype, that genuine sense of excitement for every new addition. From everything we've seen with characters like Zani all the way to Chiyuan, Wuthering Waves uses each of these characters to show us an entirely different world every single time. From fighting like a gladiator goddess when using Augusta, with the sky literally reflecting your glory, to becoming an overpowered samurai when playing Chiyuan, giving us the closest thing to that blind OP samurai experience possible. Characters in Wuthering Waves show us that the one single world everyone traverses equally can be seen through countless perspectives, creating multiple unique experiences from a single playthrough. And most importantly, they tell us everything we need to know about future characters, which is absolutely nothing at all. Except from the fact that they will be amazing, we have no idea what to expect. No clue how their playstyle will affect the world around them, and that mystery, that unpredictability is exactly what makes it so exciting. But Genshin Impact, on the other hand, tells us a very different story when it comes to anticipation. Going forward, we already have an idea of who the playable characters will be. We'll have Durin, Varka, Alice, and at some point, we'll most likely even have the Shades as playable characters, and one day, we may even get the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles themselves, the biggest, baddest entity in all of Genshin Impact as a playable character. But let me ask you a question. is there truly any sense of excitement left for any of these characters? Take Durin for example. The lore tells us that the original Durin was this immensely powerful dragon, a creature that brings terror to even the monsters around it. And even though this new Durin may not be that same terrifying beast, it still possesses the power of that monster. And on paper, that sounds exciting. We're literally getting a dragon, and we should be anticipating what that dragon-like experience will feel like when we finally use him. But do we really? Do we expect Durin to have flying capabilities that reminds us of the dragon that he is? Do we expect the world around him to be affected in any way, shape, or form by who he is as a character? Or do we just expect another Bennett-like character, someone who can do everything Bennett already does, just with a new look and a slightly flashier ultimate animation? Now, I say this all the time, and I am all the time proven wrong, but maybe Genshin could surprise us. Maybe future characters will finally show the kind of growth that older characters never had. But the fact remains, regardless of where you stand in the Genshin versus WoW arguments, if the idea of a new character in Genshin doesn't excite you nearly as much as it does in Wuthering Waves, then that alone speaks volumes about the absolute importance of these unnecessary additions. But what do you think? Do you believe these additions are as important as this video suggests? Or do you see them in an entirely different way? What are your thoughts on their impact on characters overall? Tell me about that and more in the comments below, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.